Nuts.
Stay.
Yeah.
Stay.
Okay. Hello everyone and welcome to Bound in Prose. I am your host Matt, and today I am joined by a very special guest, my younger brother Justin.
What's up, y'all?
So, if you didn't notice, I am in my new setup, so I pulled two of my other shelves over here. Do I look smart yet? So today I kind of thought that we would do a little bit different of a video. I am currently working on my first reading vlog, and it is a lot of fun, but it has taken me some time. So I wanted to do another video that I thought was really important, discuss a topic that I think is really important. And so I have brought in my younger brother to kind of discuss that with me, and I'm just going to hand it over to him for a second to introduce you to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so as Matt's been talking to you about books and reading and things like that, I come from a really different perspective. I actually have dyslexia, and I have struggled with dyslexia since I was second grade and, in elementary school. And reading has always kind of been an issue for me.
Yeah, so I know that with dyslexia, it manifests in so many different ways for different people. So can you tell us kind of how yours manifests and affects you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually going to use a little prop here. So as far as my dyslexia is concerned, the way that I read books, I can't read a physical book for multiple purposes. One is you have no end to it, and you're having this big thing, and it's like every single page it's more and more and more. And there's almost too much to take in. It gets a little bit of a challenge to get through something when you look at the whole thing, you see a big thing. There's no end in sight. And so for me, physical books are hard for me to read. I buy physical books. I've wasted a lot of money on physical books, as he understands, a lot of money on physical books. I don't read them. I buy them. They collect dust.
Some of that is my fault, because we'll go into a bookstore and I start buying books and the smell gets to you and you just can't help it. You want to bring home some physical books.
Coffee, books.
Yes.
It gets all in your senses.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's kind of like it overloads you.
It's very overloading, very overwhelming, very overwhelming.
Yeah, and that kind of occurs in other aspects too. Like, if you say, Justin, go clean your house, it's like
it's too much.
Yeah,
I got to take one room at a time.
Yeah, or you say, go wash the dishes. That's fine.
Right. I can do that. I can do that. So like for me, I had to figure out another way to take in books, and that's why I am a ebook reader. I have two of them, actually. I have the Kindle Paperwhite and the Kindle Scribe, and I love them both. And so, yeah, we're kind of like the polar opposites as far as books are concerned. Matt really loves the physical copy, and I love physical books. I just can't get through them. So I do more of the ebooks.
Yeah. So starting from the beginning, so early on, in school, they try to get you to start reading, and they kind of have their traditional way of doing it. And obviously that presents its difficulties. So what was it like reading as a young kid?
Right. Well, anyone with dyslexia understands that you don't fit into the traditional mold as far as learning is concerned. And the way that you take in material is not traditional. You have to figure out a way around that and figure out your own way of doing it. And so as a kid, I was homeschooled. And so I had a lot of different things I had to read by myself. Just the way that you took in the material, and I had a hard time with that. And so I had a literature class that, I had several different books. They weren't long books. They were about 200-300 pages or something like that. Really small books. I mean, we're talking like, Lord of the Flies, Of Mice and Men. We're Fahrenheit 451. We're talking about these classics, you know what I mean? And the only way I could get through them is for someone to actually read it to me, like my mom or my dad or my aunt or whatever, our aunt, whatever. They had to read it, and I had to follow along in order to get through the book.
And so, and that pretty much lasted until when?
I mean, that's always been that way. But it really lasted until, I mean, well into high school and college, and even at that, I didn't read books. I bought them, didn't read them.
Yeah. So then, as we're going to talk about, this really changed. And so, if you would tell us the first book that you read as an adult by yourself, and how did you accomplish that?
Yeah. So how it kind of turned around, because I mean, it really did. There's two ways that I got through that, and let me just tell you, the first book I read as an adult was no small feat. It was Pet Cemetery. Could have been any book. I picked that out of all things, and for me, Pet Cemetery, I was able to get through the book, the physical copy, but I still couldn't read it. I had to incorporate that same technique that I had when I was younger, and so I found Audible. Audible was my go-to. Audible was kind of the way that I was able to hear someone read it to me like I did as a kid, and I was still able to follow along. And I think nowadays they call it immersive reading, I believe is what they call it. But you're listening to it, but you're following along, but you're not hearing your own voice in your own head. And the good thing about Audible is it kept me going on a steady pace. Whereas if I'm reading a book by myself, I may read the same paragraph 3 times and still have questions about it. And so Audible was able to keep me going, keep me on the right track, keep me at a good pace, and I was able to get through the material.
Yeah. And then even with that, you had to tweak it just a little bit, because you talk about a speed that works for you.
Yeah. So obviously, I talk pretty quick. I've always talked fast, even as a kid. Everyone's like, "Slow down, Joseph, slow down." I mean, my brain goes so quick. And so when I was reading or listening to let me back that up for a second. Let me say this. What I'm doing, I still consider myself reading, even though I have these little different techniques and things. So I just share that terminology. I just want to clear that up, because I think that comes across, sometimes. Anyway, so what I had to do was, whenever I was listening to that audio at normal speed, it felt like we're talking like this, and it felt like it just kept on going and going. And so I actually started to speed it up and speed up the audio to actually get through it quicker, and really get it to a comfortable speed for me, the way that I talk. And so I got to that same tempo, that same speed, and was able to knock out a book quicker than, having it on one speed, normal speed. And still, you're still taking the material, but I knew there was an end to it.
Right. And so it's like putting it on the speed that you can actually read, but it just helps you stay on track and not get overwhelmed with, I have to go so far, in this particular section.
Right. And the good thing about Audible too, and also with Kindle, they have those little status bars at the very bottom or on the phone. And so you can see, okay, I have 11 hours left. I have 10 hours left. I have 9 hours. Okay, there's an end. There's an end to this, right. Not that I want to get to the end in a hurry. I can see the end of the tunnel. So I know I'm working towards something.
Yeah. Progress is really a big thing. Because like you were saying, you pick up a whole book and you look at this chunk that you have to do, and you just feel like I'm never going to make progress. So that percentage bar is a good reminder to you, or a good morale booster that you actually are getting somewhere with it.
Right. And it's kind of funny. You almost start having a competition with yourself. You're like, okay, I want to beat that percent bar. I want to get to the very end of that thing. And so you see those numbers progress and get bigger and bigger. And again, it keeps you going. It's a morale booster.
So now that you have discovered the way that works for you to become a reader and a bookworm, tell us about kind of where you're at now as a reader.
Yeah, so when I started this whole journey, my first year I was able to read 4 books, which was a huge accomplishment for me at the time. It was 4 books by myself, The second year I was able to get through, I believe 15, which was, again, a huge jump from 4 to 15. And then this year my goal was 20, and I'm at 21 books right now. So, and this year I've read some major chunkers, including 3 of the 4 Stormlight Archives books by Brandon Sanderson. I read the first one, The Way of Kings, last year, and then this year I read the other 3, so I am caught up. And if anyone knows these books, it's no small feat. I mean, we're talking. I mean, for those 3 books, we're talking good, big old chunkers here, And so I was able to get through those this year, and I loved them. And, currently right now I have 2 books that I'm reading, which shows you again where I'm where I've gone. Not only am I reading one book at a time, I'm reading two. And so I'm reading, one of them is I'm reading The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, and I'm reading Iron Gold by Pierce Brown, and loving them both.
Yeah. So 21 books. And so what are some of the genres that have really captured you now that you're like reading on your own?
For me, the biggest genre that I find myself go towards, I love fantasy. Fantasy is a big one for me. Sci-fi is the other one, hence, Iron Gold. And, I'm wanting to get to The Expanse later. We're talking about that series. But I've also read a lot of other different things too. I haven't just strapped myself to those two genres. I do love horror. I love Stephen King. Another author named of Nick Cutter. I like him. I've read a lot of different authors, in those genres. And then I've also tried to pick up, The Pillars of the Earth. It's a little bit more literary fiction, I think is what you call it. And then I did also read it somewhere in there maybe, but also I've tackled and I actually read this, which it's kind of catching on online again on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I read that thanks to this one right here. And so, I've read a lot of different types of genres, but I think my two big ones would be fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah. And you don't feel anymore like there is a book out there that you couldn't read if you wanted to. Yeah, so we've already crossed that bridge, and so
that bridge, that ship has sailed.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what's on your TBR? We all know TBRs are an exercise in futility, but what's on yours?
Exactly. I have a couple different ones. One of the ones that's just right at the top that you have in physical form is To Paradise by Hani Yanagihara. I want to get through that. As far as fantasy is concerned, I want to get through some of the Realm of the Elderlings. I've already read the first book in that series of Farseer. Fantastic book. Definitely goes on one more short ones this year. So I want to go through those. And then I also want to finish the Red Rising series. I have the Iron Gold and 2 other ones left for this year. And then I'll probably start that. And then I also want to read Shogun next year. It's another one that he's really big into. And then there's 2 other ones. And one of them is the Bound of the Broken series. For the first one, loved it. Continue on with that. And then maybe breaking into some of these books over here that you have physical copies of. Like the Eye of the World and all the rest of those in that series. That's kind of like my short-term TBR or so for next year. But, we'll see.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, goodness. I want to read Pachenko coming up. I want to get through Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I know that is a big one. Maybe I will talk about it, even though there are 100 million billion reviews of that. But that one would be good. And then I'm going to go back into a little bit of true crime. I want to read Helter Skelter. So, yeah.
There's one. I totally forgot. There's one of the book that I want to read. Okay. I'm really looking forward to it. It's like a cult classic. His author is David Foster Wallace, and that book is called Infinite Jest.
So yeah, and so kind of the point of this whole video is, even though I understand, and you better than anybody, that dyslexia can manifest itself in so many ways. One of the things that I want to encourage you to do, if you want to be a reader, if you've ever felt like it's kind of beyond you, that your brain isn't going to let you do it, to keep experimenting and trying different methods. And if it's something you want to do, I believe that you can find a way. And so, for you, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, so a wise person once told me that, you can do it, you just got to figure out how to do it. And so for me, my way of doing it was a lot different than others. And I think sometimes, people who kind of deal with my situation kind of, I wouldn't say look down upon, but it's like, you're not really reading it. It's like, no, I am reading it. I just have to have someone else read it to me. And I'm still reading it as we go along. Mm-hmm. I just need those extra tools to get through it. And so, as Matt said, don't be afraid to experiment. Find your own way how to get the material, because there's nothing more rewarding than sit down and diving into a book, and just being able to have that, essentially that escapism that we talk about, in books, just getting away. And don't get discouraged. Just find your own way that works for you.
Yeah. He's one book ahead of me this year. So yeah, so you can do it. And I am obviously not an expert on dyslexia, so I understand that there are going to be, specifics for you that are different from everybody else. But, give yourself grace, be kind to yourself, and,
Pick up a book.
pick up a book. Pick up a book. So, anyways, thank you, Justin, for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
This is I think a fabulous video, and so thank you to everyone who clicked on this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Call me names. Don't call him names. Call me names. But anyways, thank you so much. I hope to see you in the future, and happy reading, everyone.
See y'all.
We're filming.
Sorry.